Good morning, class. I'll be starting with the same chapter, Chapter 8, the Delhi Sultanate. In the last class, I've explained up to the administration under the Delhi Sultanate. Under the topic, Central Administration, Provincial Administration, Local Administration. So today I'll be starting with the new topic, Social Life of the Delhi Sultanate. Page number is 225. So let's begin. Social life. The ruler in the Delhi Sultanate, the Turks formed the ruling class and they were proud of their pure blood. But when the Khiljis came, the Turks lost their power and Muslim, irrespective of their birth, were given high posts. So the rulers in the Delhi Sultanate, as the Turks formed the ruling class and they were very proud of their pure blood. But with the coming of the Khiljis, the Turks lost their power and even the Muslims, irrespective of their they not only lost their power but the Muslim, irrespective of their births and which were given to high posts, were also lost. The noble enjoyed a life of luxury and were united in their war against the infidels. However, they were also known to be jealous and greedy of power, which caused problem to the state. So even the nobles now they enjoy a life of luxury and were united in their war against the infidels. So however, these nobles were also known for their jealousy and greedy for power, and which caused the power in the state. Next is the Muslim. The Muslim, besides the Indian convert, belongs to two classes. So now first is soldier and second is writer. The soldiers manage military station across the country and a foreign origin. They were divided into grades. The Khan belonged to the highest grade and the Shar-I Khal to the lowest grade. So the Muslim, besides the Indian, the converts belong to as they belong to two classes. First is soldier and the second is writer. So the soldier managed the military stations across the country and had a foreign origin, and they were divided as these soldiers were divided into two grades. The Khan belonged to the highest grade and Shar-I Khal to as they belong to the lowest grade. As the writers were the ulema, who were clerics, theologians, and the teachers who gave advice to the Sultan. They established madrasas and well versed in Islamic law. Alauddin Khilji was the only Sultan who was not under their influence. So the writers, as the second one is the writers. They were the ulemas and who were clerics, theologians, and teachers, and they gave advice to the Sultan and they established madrasas, and they are all well versed in Islamic law, as Alauddin Khilji was the only Sultan who were not under the influence of these ulemas. To the lowest category belong to the clerks, craftsmen, petty merchants, and slaves. The Hindus form the majority of the Indian population due to the Turkish policy of territorial expansion. They were often killed, converted, and sold as slaves. The Hindus were given low posts in the finance department, which controlled banking and money lending. The Hindus observe greater rigidity in caste. So the Hindus form the majority of the Indian population, and due to the Turkish policy of territorial expansion, these Hindus were often killed and converted, as they are also killed, converted, and sold as a slave. Even these Hindus were given low price in the finance department, which control banking and money lending. Even they observe greater rigidity in caste. As far as women were concerned, the women were kept in parda and protect, as they were protect from the Turkish ruler, and also they also find cases some cases of sati were fined during that period, and even Hindus were to require to pay the tax called jizya. Next is economic life in the Delhi Sultanate. The economic life of India under the Delhi Sultans were marked by prosperity and advancement in all areas. So, the economic life of the Indians under the Sultans, Delhi Sultans, as they were marked with prosperity and advancement in all the areas. First is agriculture and cattle rearing. As the Sultan made great effort in expanding the improving culture, the Sultan made as a great effort in expanding and improving culture, and the important source of the account is Ibn Battuta, uh, which was found in the account of Ibn Battuta, who visit during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and even the other travelers also visit during the medieval period, include Domingo Pius, he was a Portuguese, and Mahuan, he was in Chinese. As they come to know that excessive fertility of the soil led to the double crop mm, cultivation every year, and 7 varieties of millet, peas, beans, and 4 varieties of spring crops like wheat, barley, lentils was grown. As Malabar was well known for its spices like ginger and pepper, and for and Bengal for cotton, mango, and sugarcane. So, because of the excessive fertility of the land, many there was a double crop cultivation during that period, and even varieties of millet, peas, beans, and 4 varieties of spring crops like wheat, barley, lentils were grown. And Malabar was well known for the spices like ginger and pepper, and Bengal was known for cotton, mango, and sugarcane. Next is trade. Bin Battuta also gave a vivid account of trade and commerce during the Delhi Sultanate period. In the field of inland trade, Delhi was the largest market for the sale of rice, sugar, and betel leaf. India carried Canelan beads from Gujarat and exported it to Europe and South Africa through the seaport of Cambay. So the seaport of Randar in Gujarat was the largest trading center that provide for exporting product to Malacca and China. Goa became a great market of horses. Import includes diamonds from Deccan, brocades from China, and precious stones from Ceylon. Coastal trades existed between Malabar, Gujarat, and Bengal. Overseas trades include the Persian Gulf, Arabia, Southeast and East Asia, Western and Eastern Africa. So, this trade, Battuta also give a vivid account of trade and commerce during the Delhi Sultanate. So, as Delhi was the largest market for the sale of rice, sugar, and betel nut leaf, and it carried Carnelian beads from Gujarat and even exported to Europe and South Africa. Although the seaport of beads from Gujarat and South Africa, and through the seaports of Cambay. Even the seaport of Randar in Gujarat, it is the highest trading center and that and province for exporting product to Malacca and China. As Goa also became the market of horses, and imports including diamond from Dhaka, brocades from China, and precious stone from Ceylon, where coastal trades existed between Malabar and even the Gujarat and Bengal. Overseas trade including Persian Gulf, Arabia, Southeast and East Asia, Western and Eastern Africa were seen during that period. Next is industries. Since the ancient period, the textile industry was one of the most important industries, and according to Barbosa, Cambay in Gujarat, it was famous for white cotton, printed cotton, silk, colored velvet, satin fabrics, and carpet, which was exported to Western Europe, South Africa, Burma, and Indonesia. As Bengal was famous, Bengal was famous for muslin and Malabar and chintz and colored. Chintz means a printed cotton fabric, glazed or unglazed, used specially for draperies. So color cotton, charkha, spinning wheel. During that time, charkha, the spinning wheel, were also introduced. The metal industries which produce Indian swords, daggers, vessels made of copper and bronze became famous all over the world. So during that period, that metal industries which produce swords, daggers, vessels made proper uh, copper and bronze became famous all over the world, and later industries produce horse saddles, as also later in the industries also produce horse saddles. Gujarat was famous for blue and red leather mats, and paper making was introduced in India in the 13th century by using rags and ropes, and Gujarat produced the first paper manuscript. So, paper making was introduced in India in the 13th century by using rags and ropes, and Gujarat produced the first paper manuscript. Other industries were also were salt making, diamond mining, panna and South India, ivory and precious metals, and other industries. Next topic is condition of the people during the Delhi Sultanate. During the Delhi Sultanate period, the higher classes, which include the royal family and nobles, live in luxury. So, during the Sultanate period, the higher classes and the royal families and nobles, they live in luxury. And according to Ibn Battuta, at the Sultan's darbars, horse and elephant were decorated with silk and gold, and Sultan and courtiers used jewels, studded furnitures, and Gujarat and Malabar had the high level of prosperity. So, according to Ibn Battuta, the Sultan in the darbar of Sultan, horses and elephants, as they were decorated with silk and gold, and the Sultan and even the Sultan and the courtiers used jewels studded. Even their furnitures were studded with jewels, and Gujarat and Malabar had a high level of prosperity during the Sultanate period. The common people live in thatched but well-built homes and were not poor. The common people, though they were lived in thatched home, but their homes were built homes. Though they were lived in thatched homes, but their homes were built and they were not poor. Commodities were cheap in Bengal and Orissa, and many people were engaged in trade. Unfortunately, the wealth and prosperity of India in the Sultanate period, but by the trade and war booty, was destroyed by the invention of Timur. So, as the common people were not poor, as the commodities were cheap in Bengal and Orissa, and many people were engaged. Unfortunately, the wealth and prosperity of India was in the Sultanate period built up by trade, and war booty, as this was destroyed by invention of Timur. With the invention of Timur, all the prosperity had taken by the invention of Timur. Cities and town. Next topic. Another important aspect of medieval economy was the presence of prosperous cities that had rich markets, such as in Gujarat, Malwa, Vijayanagar, Multan, and Lahore. So, an important aspects of medieval economy was the presence of prosperous cities, which had the cities had rich markets, such as in Gujarat, Malwa, as these places like Gujarat, Malwa, Vijayanagar, Multan, and Lahore. These cities had many royal karkhanas and encouraged many craft organized by guilds. So these cities has many royal karkhanas and even encourage many craft organized by guilds. Next topic is literature under the Sultan of Delhi. And literature is an important aspect of the cultural life of the people in the medieval period. So was the composition of great literary work. Literature received an impetus not only due to the royal patronage but also due to the Bhakti and Sufi movement. So in the Delhi Sultanate, this literature is the most important aspect in the cultural life of the people and life people in the medieval period, and was the composition of great literary works. So even literature also received impetus not only due to the not it wa- no not it this literature not only received great patronage by the royal family, but with the coming of Bhakti and Sufi movement, it became famous. So, literary work in Urdu. The most important development in the field of literature was the birth and development of the Urdu language. So, the most important development in the field of literature was the birth and development of the Urdu language. Persian was the official language of the court language, and Hindi was the language of command masses. So the Persian was the court language, and Hindi language is for the command masses. When the Turks came to India, they were an intermingling to Indian and Central Asian culture. As a result of this contact, a common dialect developed, which was originally called Zaban-i Hindavi. So the common language dialect was Zaban-i Hindavi, and later Urdu. In the initial stages, the grammar of Urdu was Indian. So in the first stage, the grammar of Urdu was Indian, and gradually it became Persian and Arabic in nature. It's also known as the camp language because of the widely spoken by the soldier who came in and around Delhi and Meerut. So Amir Khusro was the first person to write in this language. The Bahmani sultans of Bijapur and Golconda patronized Urdu, but the Turks did not adopt a favorable attitude towards the prefer Persian. So Amir Khusro was the first person to write it in this language, and even the Bahmani sultans of Bijapur and Golconda patronized Urdu, but the Turks did not adopt a favorable attitude towards by the Persian prefer Persian. Next is literary work in Persian. Since Persian was the court language of sultans of Delhi, the period from 1206 to 1526 CE, show the flourishing of Persian language and literature. All the Turco-Afghan sultans from Qutbuddin Aybak to the Lodis employed Persian writers, poets, chronicles, philosophers, and lawyers in the court. Some of the famous figures of Persian literature are Amir Khosrow, Minhaj us Siraj, Amir Hassan Dalvi, Zayuddin Barani, and Hassan Nizami. So in the work of Persia was the court language of the sultans, and it was in the period of 1206 to 1526 CE. CE is Common Era, and it saw the flourishing of Persian language and literature. Even the Turco-Frank sultans from Qutbuddin Aybak to the Lodis employed Persian writers, poets, chronicles, philosophers, and lawyers in the court. And some of the famous figures in the Persian literature were Amir Khosrow, Miraj Siraj, Amir Hassan Dalvi, Zayuddin Barani, and Hassan Nizami. These were the famous literature of Persian figure. Next is Amir Khosrow. He was the greatest. Amir Khosrow was the greatest of all the Persian poets, and he was born in Patiali in 1253, as he was patronized by the Delhi sultans from Balban to Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq. So Amir Khosrow was patronized by Balban to Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq, and he was the first Muslim writer to use Hindi language. His great works include Tariq-i-Alai, Khazai-ul Fatah, Tughlaqnama, and Laila Majnu and New Sifir. And Amir Khosrow died in 1325 CE, as he was the disciple of Sheikh Nizamuddin and Aluya, and was given to the title of Tuti-i-Hind, as Amir Khosrow was given the title of Tuti-i-Hind. Next is Amir Hassan Dalvi. As Amir Hassan Dalvi, he was the court poet of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and and even wrote the book of Nizamuddin Auliya. Miraj uz Siraj, as he was the his famous work was Tabakat I Naziri, with the history of India from the ancient age of 12 1260 CE. Next is Zainuddin Barani. He wrote the famous work Tariq I Firoz Shahi, as he was patronized as Zainuddin Barani was patronized by Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Next is Hazan Nizami. Hazan Nizami was a famous chronicler, and his famous work is Taj ul Mashir. Next is literary work in Hindi. As Hindi literary work also assumed importance during the period, as the first work of this period was Prithviraj Raso by Chand Bardai, the court of Prithviraj Chauhan. Sarangdara was another well-known figure who wrote two poems of Raja Hamir and of Ranthambore, Hamir Rasho and Hamir Kavya. Amir Khusro also wrote in Hindi. Bhakti saints like Kabir and Nanak also produced literary work in the form of bhajans and dohas. So, Hindi work was also assumed important during the period, and the first important work of Hindi was Prithviraj Raso by Chand Barai, and it was in the court of Prithviraj Chauhan. Another was Sarangdhara. He wrote two poems for Raja Hamir of Ranthambore, Hamir Rasau and Hamir Kavya, and even Amir Khusro wrote in Hindi, and even Bhakti saints like Kabir and Nanak also produced literary work in the form of bhajans and dohas. Literary works in provinces, another topic. As far from the provincial literary work as concerned, Bengal produced the largest amount of literary work and the top-notch quality. As Bengal also produced the largest amount of literary work, and the first great poet of Bengal was Jayadeva, who wrote Gita Govinda. Chandidas is considered to be the greatest lyrical poet of Bengal in Sultanate period. His famous work was Sri Krishna Kirtana. So, Jayadeva was the first great poet of Bengal. He wrote Gita Govinda, and Chandidas is considered to be the greatest lyrical poet of Bengal in Sultanate period. His famous work was Sri Krishna Kirtana. Bengali literature found in contemporary is Maithili literature, and even the greatest poet of Maithili literature was Vidyapati Thakur of the 15th century. His theme was the love of Radha and Krishna, and well work is Purusha Pariksha. Next is art and architecture of the Delhi Sultanate. All the sultans of Delhi had a passion for art and architecture, and therefore built magnificent places for mosques and architecture of the Delhi Sultanate, and had the following features. The first is the Muslim ruler brought with their own architect style from Central Asia, as these Muslim rulers brought their own architecture style from Central Asia, North Africa and Western Europe, and they merged with the indigenous or Hindu architectural style and employed Indian craftsmen, as they also employed Indian craftsmen to build them. As a result, they gave birth to Indo-Islamic style of architecture. Next is the building. The Muslim building had a spacious courtyard and were thus open and airy nature. So even this Muslim buildings had a spacious courtyard and they were open and airy in nature. Even the most of Muslim had a dome, 40 lofty towers or minarets, rich vault, pillared veranda, mihrab, or a clock. Next is a tomb has a chamber, mihrab on the western side, surmounted by a dome and burial chamber with the grove underneath. Next is they had a red stone and marble for the buildings. This Muslim used red stone and marble for their buildings. Next is monument of the slave dynasty. So some of the important architectural construction took during the slave dynasty were the Quwwat ul Islam Mosque. So this the first monument of the Delhi Sultanate was the Quwwat ul Islam Mosque in Delhi, built by Qutbuddin Aibak, and another monument was built by Adhaiddin Ka Jaunpur. It was in Ajmer. Next is Qutub Minar. The most important monument of slave dynasty was Qutub Minar. It was started by Qutbuddin Aibak in 1199 CE, and it was completed by his son-in-law Iltutmish in 1230, and it has the following features. It's the tower made of red stone and crafted in, and it was crafted by white marble. Second is it is 5-story, gradually tapering upward to 72.5 meter. Next point is all the 5-story were surmounted by veranda or projectory gallery which encircle the tower. Next is a circular staircase lead to one of the top of the tower. Next point is the balconies have some small arcs which are beautifully decorated. So it is believed that the tower was built for the using to call the faithful. It was for the faithful prayer or maybe commemorate Muslim victory over the Rajput. Next is monument of the Khiljis. Alauddin Khilji built two important monuments, Alai Darwaza and Mahal Hazur Satun, palace of thousands pillar in the town of Siri. So Alauddin Khilji built two important monuments, Alai Darwaza and Mahal Hazur Satun. It was a palace of 1,000 pillars. The Alai Darwaza was built in 1311 CE in the premises of Qutb Minar, and it consisted of a square hall with a dome and arched doorway and all the side. Monument of Tughlaq dynasty. Ghiazuddin built a city of Tughlaqabad around Delhi, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq founded the city of Jahanpana and built many buildings in the Daulatabad. Firoz Shah built the Kotala, the grand and opulent citadel of city of Firoz Shah Madrasa, a house khas. His tomb is situated in house khas. So Ghiazuddin built Tughlaqabad around Delhi and Jahanpana was and built many buildings in Daulatabad. Even Firoz Shah built the Kotla, the grand and opulent citadel of city, and Firoz Shah built Shahi Madrasa at House Khas. Even his tomb was situated in House Khas. Monument of the Said and the Lodis. The Said and the Lodis ruler could not build any significant monuments due to because of lack of resources. They could not make any significant resources. Their monument include the tomb of Mubarak Shah Said and Muhammad Shah Said and Sikandar Lodi. Next topic is provincial architecture. The independent provincial kingdom which rose to the power during the Delhi Sultanate also developed their own architecture style. So the Adina Masjid at Pounda in Bengal, built by Sikandar Shah, Ilaki tomb of Jalauddin Muhammad Shah in Bengal. So these masjid were built by Sikandar Shah and Jalaluddin Muhammad Shah in Bengal. In Gujarat, Jami Masjid of Ahmedabad and Tin Darwaza of Triple Gateway. Next is Jaunpur Jami Masjid by Hussain Shah Sharki and Atala Devi Mosque. These were built by these were the another architecture and provincial architecture, and the last architecture was Bahmani Kingdom, the mosque of Gulbarga and Bidar. So these were the provincial architecture of the Delhi Sultanate. So we have come to this to the end of this chapter. In the next class, I will be starting with the new chapter. Thank you.